Alright, today we're going to be talking about DrawTextureRec. Now this one is actually used for cool animations. If you want to animate a character and you got a sprite sheet with about like 6 frames. Today I'm going to be using a simple image, or you could download it basically anywhere. I'm going to put it down in the description, called scarfy.png. Now let me just load them up on our load texture. If you do not know how to do this, go watch our first and second video to actually understand. Scarfy.png. Now let's go ahead and put our function called DrawTextureRec. Now this texture rec needs a texture 2D, which we have, which is our image. Then it wants a rectangle, which is called source. Now I have to explain this to you guys. Source is basically the rectangle we're gonna use to actually even load a part of a sprite sheet. So we're not going to load this whole sprite sheet because then it'll be ugly as fuck, and we actually want to animate it. So what source is basically a small rectangle that goes around one frame / one sprite. Then it could go to the next and the next using some simple math. Now if you didn't understand it, let me go ahead and draw it real quick. I already did this earlier. So first of all, let's say we gotta change the color. Let's say we got a sprite sheet right here, and it consists of 3 sprites. Basically, let's say it's an idle animation. Now what our source is it's actually a rectangle that'll cut out and only load a part of this sprite. So our source is only gonna load this part of an image, and then it could go to the next part and to the next part. So let's go ahead and add its variables for this source. So we're gonna need a variable called rectangle. Name it source. And first of all, it needs a coordinate, x and y coordinate. Now let me explain this to you guys. The x and y coordinate is not the coordinates where this image is going to be drawn on the screen. It's not. It's actually the coordinates that it's going to be drawn inside of the sprite. What do I mean by that? Is our sprite and source has its own coordinates. The top left is the 0, 0. If you want us to draw the next sprite, we got to set it to here, and up to here, and here, and here, and here. Alright. Let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to set this to 0 for right now. And then, like I said, image, this texture 2D has a special, I do not know what those are called, the special members that we could access, which is height, format, ID, mipmaps, and width. For this one, our rectangle actually consists of, let's check, an X position, Y position, the width, and the height. So right here, we're going to load up the width, and we're actually going to divide the width by 6. Now, if you're wondering why, it's because our sprite sheet, let's say each frame or each sprite is 32 pixels. And this member function, or whatever it's called, .width, returns the whole width of this sprite sheet. So if one sprite sheet is 32 times 3, that's about 96 or something. And if we actually divide 96 by how many frames there are, which is 3, we get 32. And we only want to draw one frame. We do not want to draw the whole thing. So we got to divide it by 32, so we only get one frame. I mean, divided by 3, or how many sprites there is. So in scarfy.png, there's 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So for this, we're going to do divided by 6. Just typecast this into a float. And the second one, we just do image.height. You do not need to divide it because there's no image down here. It's just on the X. And that's our source. Go ahead and add our source here. Now we need the actual position of this image, where we want to draw this image onto the screen using a vector 2. I'm going to make a vector 2, call this position. Let's just set it to 0.f and 0.f. You could set it to whatever you want for your game or whatever. Now we need the tint. I already explained tint. Set that to white. And now you'll see. Did I spell white wrong? I did. Now I see Scarf is actually drawn. Now let me go ahead and display what happens if you don't divide the width. You'll see the whole sprite sheet is actually loaded up, which we do not want. So that's why we actually divided by 6. Now, I know you guys are thinking, how the fuck are we gonna actually animate this? How we can animate this is like I explained. Let me go to my drawing thing. Keep fucking deleting that shit. How I explained, each sheet on a rectangle or source will have its own X and Y position, which we set to 0.0 for right now. So it's gonna load the first image. And since it has 32 width, it's just gonna make a little box from the height and width we added right here. Now if we actually want to load the second image, the X will have to change to 32. So if the X changes to 32, our new dot will be here. Now it'll be displaying the second image. If we want this one, it'll have to be 62 for the X, and it'll load the next image. How do we do this? We can actually times this by frames. And you guys might not get that right now, but I'm going to show you guys how. So we're going to make a new int variable called frame. Let's set this to 0. And we're going to go ahead and put frame plus plus. Let's go to also update the source dot x equal to frame times image dot width. Oh, divided by 6, by the way. Now you see he's moving a little too fast. Why? Because our loop loops really fast. So we actually need to change this and add some time so that it changes slowly. How do we add time? We can actually use something or make 2 variables. One called running time. It's going to be set to 0. And one called update time, which is the timer we wanted to change the frame. Which we can do to 1.f, 12.f. It's a very small number. Make this to a constant. We're never going to change it. So first of all, running time is going to be our time. How do we actually update this time? We can actually use delta time. How do we make delta time? We use a float down here. Call it delta time is equal to get frame time. Now get frame time, if you do not know what this is or don't know what delta time is, it gets the time in between frames. And we can actually just get that time by dividing 1 and the frames you're using minus 60, which is 0.1666. So that's the value of delta time. So if we actually add delta time to running time, it'll be like a little timer. Delta time. Now it'll keep adding itself and it'll be like a timer, but it'll keep on going up. So we'll need an if statement. If running time is greater than or equal to update time or max time, we're going to set the timer back to 0, or else it'll only work once. Then we're going to set the source dot x is equal to frame times, typecast this into a float, frame times image.width, or we don't even need image.width since it's already in a rectangle, so we could just do source dot width. That's about it. Then we're going to do frame plus plus, update the frame. If frame is greater than or equal to, oh no, it's greater than 6. Or you could do is equal to 5. Why we're doing this is because 0, we're going to start at 0, because if we don't start at 0, then we won't get the first sprite, because 0 times a number is equal to 0. So to get the first one, 1 times the width of this will be the next one, and so on. So right here, just gonna reset the timer. It's equal to 0. I mean the frame. And now our character should be running at a good time. See you guys on the next one, where I'm gonna explain DrawTexture Pro. Last one.